3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin the Racing.
And welcome back to the podcast brought to you by OMG Racing, JCT, Truck and Trailer Hire, and Bennetts Bike Insurance. I keep forgetting to put that. I get so used to just saying Bennetts like everyone else, but you just normally want to follow by British Superbikes, which is a lot easier way of doing it. And the perfect way of doing this is introducing our co-host for the evening, and it's out the norm, but a voice that everyone's got. He's already hyperventilating next to me, which is even better. We have the new voice of BSB, Duncan Vincent. How are we doing, son?
I'm very nervous. I'm very good. Thank you very much, Dom.
Is that because our guest tonight is actually your boss?
Yeah.
I feel I'm going to put you on the spot. Go on, would you like to introduce our guest for the evening? Look at him deeply in the eyes.
Could, actually, yeah. Our guest this evening is none other than the amazing race director for the Bennetts British Superbike Championship.
Series director.
The series director and race director for the Bennetts British Superbike Championship, and a man who also works with the FIM across the world, helping those guys with MotoGP. It's Stuart Higgs. Welcome to the podcast.
Lovely to be here.
Oh God, I love that.
First time I've done it in this truck. The last time I did this, I think it was in COVID. It was about the third or fourth week of COVID, and we did a remote thing of you and Chrissy.
Yeah. So me and Chrissy had it on the show. It was in his mum and dad's kitchen, and it was just like, I remember Chrissy looking at, now, as you know, we're Pirate FM here. It's all about having the crack, and Chrissy literally looked at me and went, "Don't fuck this up. What are you doing?" Like, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you mean? I'm like, Dominic, just wind your neck in a little bit.
I'm thinking that right now as well, by the way.
We all are.
It's just come to me. I was very slowly in the moment, just actually thinking about this. So,
Well, I tell you what, right? That is the perfect way to start this chat. I must thank you for everything that you've done for the Rouse family. And it's not just the Rouse family. You've got the Paul Bird family. You've got, it's insane, you know, the situations that we've been through. And I would like just to start it off with quite a hard question, really. Did you expect this when you stepped into this job? You know, like these situations?
I don't expect it. I mean,
no,
you know it comes with it. I mean, look, I put a 30-year shift into this sport, and it's pretty much, I think it's 30 years this year, I think, thereabouts, in certain roles, certainly my sort of clerk of the course and race director role. And and that's come with some incredible highs, but some desperate lows. But it's a journey, and the nature of the sport, you just know that things can happen. But, you know, if ever there was something that tells you about the family, the word community is often used, and I think maybe I started using that word quite a lot back in the day. And it is that. I mean, every walk of life is represented in this paddock, good, bad, and indifferent. You know, there's it's a journey, and unfortunately it replicates life itself, and you lose people along the way, and you have to recover from that, but you look after each other, and the camaraderie and the spirit, and it's a great leveler. It doesn't matter whether you from what background you are. I think that the commonality of the sport and this championship perhaps in particular, it's just it's immersive. It's a way of life, and we take it personally. And I mean, I've lost relationships over it. I've lost my relationship with my kids. A period of my life, I lost my relationship with my kids because I chose this first. I mean, racing is also an incredibly selfish sport, from the participants and how people are and the choices you make, and that's tough. I mean, I'm not asking for sympathy for it, but it's the reality of life. And do I question sometimes if it's worth it? Yeah, maybe sometimes I do. But, you know, there are days, and I know we're going to dance around on the subjects, and I don't get many opportunities to kind of vent, and it's quite a cathartic thing. I mean, you know, is that sand in my eye? I don't know, but, you know, that's what this means to me, you know. And Navarra was a really incredible event, just a really recent experience, because when you've done a 30-year career, at the end of it, the opportunity and the experiences to do something for the first time becomes less and less and less, and I don't even know whether that's the first thing that I do in my career.
Really?
And that's kind of hit me quite hard, I think. And coming back into this event, having it's almost like another round one again. I mean, it's been strange because there's an annual racing is very annual, and you judge your life by what happened in years. You have an incredible sense of time, and you pick a year, and you will know, if you're in racing, you can generally who won that year, or there was a notable moment, and it gives you an incredible vision of time in both directions in terms of what you to look forward to and what you've been through. And if you're in a regular job and you don't have those distinctions, you kind of waste time sometimes because there's nothing that stands out. But I think in racing, you're very, very aware of it. And I think that keeps us fresh, but it also reminds you how long you've been doing the flipping thing.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it for the world. But you mentioned the Rouse family. I mean, what an incredible family, and just everything about this, the legacies that come out of some of the most difficult situations. And I think that's what makes this sport better than any other motorsport in terms of. I mean, I travel with lots of other championships. You don't see that spirit. I mean, with Paul here, coming back to this place, and you still think he's going to walk around the corner. And the Bridewell family and many others, and it's mind blowing. It's truly mind blowing, and I think I'm just rambling now, but
no, not at all. Not at all.
So I didn't mean to touch your leg. I was going to ask.
As I say, I was going to go a bit higher.
No, yeah, I was going to ask it. I mean, we all lost Chrissy. We all lost a great racer and a great friend, and we all deal with that ourselves. But how do you deal with it personally? I mean, where do you go and what do you do?
I'll be honest. Not many people have got my back. I'd say I'm a loner. I have no brothers or sisters. Lost my parents when I was quite young. Kind of have mates and relationship stuff, but a lot of people it's unrelatable to. So I'm here for a lot of other people, but yeah, I mean there are days it's like you do feel the loneliest person in the world, but I'm kind of all right with that in some ways because that's kind of just the way it is. I mean, I get really pissed off when people go on the attack and they don't value what it is we've got because we're an easy target. People think, it's all this money slashing around in your and it's not. This is run as a tight business. It's been carried through enough, certainly the last 20 years, there's been a couple of times when the thing's been on the edge of a cliff. And of course the outside world hasn't known that. They don't need to know that. Our job is to smile sweetly and say everything's all right when it hasn't been all right, And the most recent example, that was COVID. There's not many organisations could have held this flipping job together. And tough decisions needed to be made. And we all kept it going, not just from an MSV point of view, but everyone in the team's community. So when people, come and have the pop at us, it's
it's low.
I can assure you there wasn't a queue of people looking to take over the championship in 2008, which was a big problem period, or 2004, or take it through the COVID period. So this is a way of life, and a lot of people it is their life. And there's a small committee group of people that are holding this together on what we do, and then obviously collectively with the teams it's much bigger, and it is a passion project for so many people, and it transcends life. And then when you put the news on and you see all the shit that's in the world, I get quite emotional thinking about that. I mean, towards the end of last year, all the terrible stuff that's happening in the Middle East was going on, and sport sometimes just lifts you and takes you into that place. But then we have our own subset, and we have triumph and tragedy, loss and success. The challenge to be on the grid, and when you see, those montages we get at the end of the year, it doesn't matter when they're on. They just kind of get you, and when you know the people involved, that just makes it so personal. But then, I don't know.
I think it's a pretty emotional weekend that we've got here for a couple of reasons. We come back to Oulton Park. Last time we were here, we were talking about Paul. We've now come back with Frank and Jordan, or Jordan and Frank, however it goes. And I don't know if it's just getting older, but I'm finding myself, I just well up all the time. and other people that have spoken to me, the same thing. I just celebrated my 54th birthday last week. And
happy birthday.
And
did you not wish him? I wished him happy birthday. Did you not do that?
It's weird. The emotion, and I don't know if that's because everything's a bit more tense and that, but I think it just proves what it means. It proves what it means. Some of the team owners. I won't reveal the name of the team owner, and we got into a discussion at Navarra about a particular subject, and I looked him straight in the eyes, and he burst into tears as well. Two grown men just blubbering at each other, but that's our difference. The real personal nature of it is, I think, again, what makes this championship just stand head and shoulders above everything else.
Navarra must have brought a whole... Sorry, Dom, I'm taking over. It's terrible.
I'm loving it.
Navarra must have brought a whole heap of... Like you say, it's the first. Yeah. You've had another first today because you've had two firsts. We've had the new sport bike on track. We've had the super teams triumph out on track. Yeah. But Navarra was completely different because it's a new venue, it's a new circuit, everything kind of falls on you. That's a big stress.
It was tough and extremely rewarding. Look, we're not insensitive also to a lot of the negativity that came out of it, but on the flip side, a lot of people saw the reason why and understood and enjoyed the experience, and it was an incredible experience. And I think this is the championship showing ambition, strength, confidence. They are massive symbols that I can tell you go far and wide, and we have to have a global outlook in terms of how the championship is presented. We are spoken about all corners of the world. I mean, generally when the season ends, I jump on a plane and do the last few MotoGP races in my other role, and I get Jack Miller will walk up to me or one of the Grand Prix, and they will tell me everything that happened in a BSB race. Team owners, people from the top brass of MotoGP, they're all watching, and I think it's that with this kind of not annoying, but with this domestic championship that just punches far above its weight, and that's what I'm so proud about, is that we put on, from a presentation point of view, our safety ethics, our competition ethics, everything about it is world class. And I think in many ways transcends the World Championship. The World Championship has obviously many other different things, races on pristine circuits, and we had this incredible mix of, we can go have a track like Navarra, which is a World Championship standard circuit, to a very historic circuit like Alton Park that gives you everything. And to have that visceral experience in 2 weeks of a track like Navarra, and then to here, it just sums up the championship. And you're resting with yourself to say, well, that was good because it was able to be this. We did like a World Championship standard presentation, I thought, at Navarra, in terms of the way the track was presented and everything, and then you lift that up and put it back down onto this incredible venue of Alton, where you just look around and it's all green, and the ribbon of tarmac as you there's a bit, if you ever do a track walk, and I love it here, you walk up to the top of Hilltop.
Yeah,
and you can get you see the experience, and you see the ribbon of tarmac comes down through the avenue, cascades, shoots down into Ireland, then into Hiz's, Knickerbrook, and you can see it climbing up through the trees. I mean, just that view, and then you see the camping ground was sold out 6 weeks ago.
Really?
This is the energy and the anticipation. Again, and this is, I think, another throwback to Navarra, because the season started outside of the UK. We had a huge TV audience for the first round, which is great, because it's the ultimate presentation pitch for the rest of the season. Yeah. And look, let's be honest, Silverstone as the first round was never hugely successful from a crowd attendance point of view. That's the reality. I mean, still we found lots of negative comments about Silverstone, and I think the choice of the round not to maintain in the UK was, I think, I reckon I counted probably about 10 comments of, oh, we're missing Silverstone. I think if we'd have even pulled one of the autumn rounds away, or one of Donington's, we would have been absolutely...
You'd have heard it.
Pulverised for it.
You'd have heard a bit.
That's putting it lightly.
And probably rightly so. We know the strengths of the championship, but we also know that, Croft has never asked for a race in the recent period, so if they've not asked, and we're not particularly in a huge rush to go back there. If they came back and said, look, we've got a proposal, we'd obviously take a look at it, but they haven't. That doesn't fit their business case, and it's not an attack on them. We had some great races in Croft from 2004 when we first went there. It was almost like a sellout that first round, but it is what it is. Anglesey have never asked about running promoted events. That's not their business model. So when people go, why aren't you going there? Well, because they don't kind of want us, and we don't particularly want to go there. So but no one's done anything wrong. We're all grown-ups.
That's incredible, because obviously you get all the speculation, don't you? Because I've just come from the North East Club where we run at Croft, and everyone says that the facilities aren't up to the standard to host a BSB.
We the same people that operate Croft also operate Thruxton, so we know them as well. We know these guys. We're like this with these people.
Touring cars race there. The facilities are okay.
Croft does have a limited number of days activity, and when you run a promoted event, it's a completely different business model to a track hire. So with a track hire, obviously an outside entity will come in and rent the facility. So from the track's point of view, they've got the security of the venue being paid for. When it's with BSB, it's a different commercial model. Is that the venue will pay something called a sanction fee, which is a fee that goes into the costs of running the championship. So that's obviously a risk to them. We don't pay track hire as a promoter to go into that track. So it's then down to the venue to get their risk and their outlay covered by the game. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Now, if you have a washout, but if you've put, look, and these are completely just numbers for the point of just saying how it kind of works. If a private promoter stroke circuit is putting, I don't know, £300,000 on the line to host an event, because they also have their own costs of how to host the public, all the sort of temporary facilities and all the other things that have to go in, infrastructure, they've got to recover that. Now, if they have a washout, they may not break even, and worse still, they'll make a loss. Now, if they've only got a limited number of days and it's a calculable thing, they're in some big trouble. So Croft probably take the view that touring cars is very strong in Croft, always has been. So that's a promoted event, and most of the other race activities there is track hire. They perhaps haven't got don't want to take the commercial risk on two promoted events. I think it'd be okay there personally, but we've kind of been away for a bit too long to bounce back how we left it in 2011, I think was the last time we were there. So there's probably some pinch points maybe from a safety and operational point of view. Well, we've just all moved on a bit, but but no one's done a bad thing, So when the people get really whiny going there, well, it's kind of it is a two-way thing that they don't want us and we don't want to go. But you always keep open dialogue. I think a race in Northern Ireland or the Republic Island would be strong. We have a huge Irish fan base and participants. I think an event would be really successful. The reality is, there's no short circuit in Northern Ireland that would be able to host a facility. We've had a lot of Bishop's Court in the past, but that is as it is not even on the table. We spoke about to some people about a private project to develop the facility, but it was very, very embryonic and involved talking to some government agencies. But the moment you get involved in talking with what is public money, that is a whole new ball game, and one that is not very easy. And also, is it right that the public purse is stretched as it is? Should it be going into like a motorsport facility? I don't probably think it is from a moral point of view. And down south, they've got some big trouble with the insurance stuff as well. So that rules that out. So the fact is, we've been running for the championship for 27, 28 years in terms of the what we call the modern era, and for around 50% of that, we've had a race outside of mainland Britain. So going to Spain it wasn't like we suddenly did something completely new. No, we went to Mondello for many years, and we went to Assen for many years. So this is just a continuation of that.
Navarra was everybody likes the first round, and it's great because we're spoiled. We get two first rounds because we've got one here because the rest of Paddock join us. But I really like the whole Spanish flair that you guys put on everything. You had the flamenco dancers with flamenco guitars, with a fan zone in the middle of the paddock, which we took the riders out to, and it was busy. It was busy. The crowd was good.
It was okay. There's a lot of learnings to come back from it. I'm not going to say anything about what we may or may not do next year. I think we have to obviously just work out with all the constituents of the championship what we thought and what we could do better, because for sure lots of things have changed since we went to Assen in terms of Brexit and the just the logistics of stuff, but things like carnets, for example, they have a 365-day validity, so a lot of the work that was done for this year actually by default may be valid also for next year, which takes a little bit of the sting out. But with this championship, we never stop learning and we never stop trying ideas. This has been probably the biggest ever closed season, or this period from maybe June 2023 through to now, where the strategic decisions about classes, decisions taken to stop a very popular class like Superstock 600. Why? Because Super Sport has now seeded, and we've led the way on that. We were a year before the World Championship. I mean, Scott Smart is an absolute genius when it comes to the technical rules. The fact that, Supersport, which everyone told me was dead at the end of 2019, it would never last, and that was the end of that. And we now have 50 plus people just trying to
last chance qualifiers from this weekend.
It's incredible. So that class has been fantastic. It's introduced something called balance of performance, which is a measurement that allows bikes of many different character and architecture to race together. And I think that in itself is fantastic because, to have twins, triples and four-cylinder bikes in the same race, that's technically interesting. It adds a new dimension. There's circuits that some work at, some don't at, and then now we've got the sport bike class, which is basically just a subset of that's gone from blueprint to actuality, again, in less than a year. Incredible work put in by everybody to do that. And again, I think from a World Championship perspective, I don't think you'll see that. Certainly, I don't think before 2026, maybe. So we're ahead of the curve on that. We're always pushing. Junior, the Supersport 300 Junior class, all right, it's very close and everything, but it was not without its issues, and it remains. I can't even watch a World Supersport 300 race, particularly on European circuits. The close pack racing, and we all know the consequences. Going back to talking about the circumstances of Chrissy, where riders getting struck in that situation. Whereas Super T now, it's on a proper, what I call a proper bike. Those new ZX 4s.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Stunning.
Just like Super Sport 400 of old. That pitch and tone. The bikes are they're fabulous. Riders are loving them. And that's what we do now, creating new products. I mean, we've got another few ideas coming.
Don't tease me like that. You've got to give us something.
No. I mean, we've got to remember that, the industry's changing rapidly, the motorcycle industry, and we have to have relevant product with what the industry is selling and what the customers want. It's a big balance. It's very difficult. We've got to be all things to all people. First of all, we have to be entertaining, and so that product that has to be factored in. Then we have to offer a career path within the global sphere of racing, which is why we have some of the classes that we do. But we're also catering for people on the way up, people that are going to stay, and people sometimes coming back. All of which are an opposing kind of thing. So no one thing you do suits everybody. Then we have to do something for the industry. Then we have to do obviously something for the public, and then it's just putting all that together. And it's not the work of a moment. So it is. It's a constant sort of big Jenga, I like to call it.
The Super Teens is going to be brilliant. There's a couple of special awards for people this year, which I found out about. There's the whole shot award, which I think is great. So the first person who gets to Sector 1, not the first corner, so you've got to get through the whole Sector 1, gets a complete set of race fairings. But the better one is the rider of the meeting.
Incentivisation to crash it.
The rider of the meeting is sponsored by Fuchs Silkeling. So the award's called, I've got to get this right, it's called Fastest Fuchs. And they get product, so
going to end badly.
Thankfully I don't get to say that too often.
Right.
I think it's more
and thankfully you've got an accent to hide behind. Let's face it, you know what I mean? Did he just say that?
If I put Silkeling on the end of it, Fastest Fuchs Silkeling Awards. That's where I'm going to. But when I saw this from Craig Watson and Ross Burridge, I thought, you serious? Is this a setup for me? But no, so there'll be some product for them as well. Plus, if they win the championship, they get a ZX6R, which could take them to that next step.
Back into some sport, So
beautiful bikes, though. Great, and to hear them coming past on howling away, brilliant. I love Super Sport 400 back in the day. I like what we've got now.
I must go back a little bit, back to the Navarra. A very simple question for me, but why Navarra? Every other tracks, Spain's flooded with tracks. Was it the case? Why? Specifically,
that's the one the company owns.
There we go. No, but I meant which is understandable. But I meant as far as MSV buying Navarra. The decision process behind that. That purchase and that process has been going on for some time. I mean, Spain, like many of the European countries, the circuits are owned by either the regional province or some sort of tourism or sort of the public sector as opposed to the private sector. Yeah.
And there's a big proliferation of this, certainly in the early to mid 2000 and 2010 period. And like anything else, I think some of these local authorities suddenly thought, we own a racetrack. And it's like, what do we do with this then?
Yeah.
And they're run as municipal facilities, so not very commercially well run. And like any a racetrack is a very expensive piece of property to maintain in terms of safety and infrastructure. And I would imagine when the general sort of economic situation that affected everyone and Europe as much as anybody else, when we need sort of £1 million to resurface a track or do a big infrastructure thing. It's like, we've got to build some schools and hospitals as well. How's that going to work?
That's it.
We got involved and we could demonstrate, and we'll I'm sure continue to demonstrate. That they can be run as proper commercial entities.
Yeah,
and that's kind of it became available. It's an incredible facility. I mean, built to an incredibly high standard in about 210 or 211, I think. But it looks as if it was built probably within half that time frame. We're going to do some development to it to make the layout a bit more interesting, because for sure there are some bits that are just a bit too car park like, and that's been done. It's not been done by a computer, it's been done by a racer. Jonathan Palmer raced, he has a great relationship with the riders in the championship, and basically gets his pen out with them and says, right, I want a corner that does this or that and elevation changes, and that's how it gets designed. It's not done by AI or anything like that. So and it's good, and I think we're an ambitious company, and it's good to have a foot in mainland Europe and to start linking product together, because we can't just be an island mentality. There is a global motorsport economic situation out there, and we got to be in it.
Yeah.
And it gives us strength, and to be able to, and if you own the real estate of the circuits, that gives you an incredible base to start from when you're deciding product and running product.
Yeah. As far as like MS3, will this be the first of, shall I dare say, many? Or I'm thinking more potential racing in Europe as far as MS3 is concerned? No.
I mean, it's you got to make sensible business decisions. We'll go where it's commercially sensible. I mean, it's as simple as that, really. Yeah. I mean, we kind of, I think history's proven we've generally made good and pragmatic decisions. I mean, and the fact we were able to keep everything going during COVID showed that it was a very well-run business that was able to draw on its own resources to keep the job going and move on. Duncan has obviously a very close affinity with Knock Hill Circuit, and MSV again is sometimes seen as this evil empire, but nothing could be further from the truth in terms of our relationship with the independent circuits. I mean, Gillian Shedden, who is the managing director of Knock Hill, is actually on the board of directors of MCRCB, which is the governing body of BSB. So she is immersed at the absolute seat of decision making. Nothing gets by without the board's decision, and so the independent circuits have got an absolute true representation on that. And I think that no one ever knows that or talks about that. Don't know. And I love going to Knock Hill. I love talking to people at Knock Hill. I think Knock Hill is one of the best promoted rounds of the championship. The staff up there are brilliant. They care about the race. It is like the Scottish Grand Prix, and you go up there and they probably work as harder than any other circuit in the championship. And every time you go there, there's an improvement of sorts. They don't have the budget of an Asian or Middle East circuit, but generally you go there and there will be an improvement, be it a safety improvement or something for the spectators, and that's great.
Toilet blocks just now. Toilet blocks, yeah.
Fantastic.
You can't go wrong with that, can you? Yeah. The next time we come to Knock Hill, it's the European Championship football. Scotland have the opening game on the Friday night, and England play on the Sunday night, so big TV.
Yeah.
Big TV. Big TV.
Yeah. Everybody's supporting Scotland. Scotland against Germany.
Oh, they need it.
Yeah, we've made it. We've made it. We'll be there for a week or two. Get a holiday out of it. Gillian says hi. She knows I was doing this week, so she sends hi. Hope you're well.
There you are.
We'll say hi back.
Hi, Gillian.
Hi, Gillian.
So when you went to Navarra, you took 4 classes. That's correct, isn't it? So that was Superbike, Supersport, F900 and
Talent Cup.
British
Talent Cup.
Yeah.
So is the plan going in next year to take the whole fleet, or?
I honestly don't know, and I'm honestly not that forward. I mean, there's one thing I love about this particular round at Alton Park is you spend the entire sort of like the end of the last year into this year. Round 1 is always just a big preparation, and then as we get a little deeper into the season already, we're talking about 2025. I mean, the British Touring Car Championship announced its dates last week, and already I've got a bit of a skeleton calendar, and you sort of begin to think about class and structure. I always kind of give myself this round as the one I just like to focus on. This round, I don't like to think about anything that far forward. I enjoy the Autumn Park round. But I don't know. I mean, maybe. I honestly don't know. I mean, it's important to not flood the event and drag I mean, a key decision for doing the race in Navarra is that, people have been testing in Spain for the last 25 years because the track time is just better, and it's not an alien place. We have to understand that is that pretty much from the previous December through January, February and March, probably half the paddock is in Spain.
Yeah.
Doing stuff collectively or individually. So it just made sense to try and say, hey, well, if you're going there anyway, why don't you just not do the bit you would have probably done, but do this bit and actually test and race at the same place? So that was a big validation for doing it. But yeah, I think we'll be open-minded to anything for the future. But I'm not going to be rushed into it. I don't think we need to. There's a lot of sort of mind dumped to come afterwards to work out how people got there, where they stayed, the logistics. You mentioned the F900. I mean, that was certainly those guys. I mean, to a T, everyone had a good time in that class because that championship actually had a transport solution. We offered a transport solution for most of the classes. I think people, the pride wouldn't let someone else do the job, whereas the F900s, the bikes all went to Donington a few days before, and they were hauled in one vehicle. It was like our flight. It was like going to Phillip Island. They were all cargoed to Navarra, and the teams made their way individually in the most economic way possible. When they got there, the bikes were there. They did the race and put the bikes back on the truck, and the bikes arrived back at Donington last week.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Quite a lot of the Talent Cup did it as well. Probably about 50% of them. They also combined it with a test in Cartagena. So they were Spain for them was never really, because the mindset of the Talent Cup kids is they've got to be around the whole Spanish thing because that's kind of the career path for that class. Supersport, no one took it up. I think there may be a change next year for that. So, there were there was definitely easy ways and harder ways to do it, and there's going to be and certainly talking people anecdotally, there's a lot of what did you stand, what did you do, I did that and you did that, and you could we did some pound for pound comparisons, and if you compared the Silverstone test and the Silverstone race last year, the accommodation costs alone were cheaper to rent somewhere in Spain for it's a beautiful part of the world, and you can rent a big apartment or a country house for about €1,500 and put your entire staff in there for a week, and it works out something like 20 quid a head. Yeah, I'm going to show you the Premier Inn in Buckingham's in about 150 quid a night. So there are some variances, and we just wanted to just take it calm. I know there's some people that get vexed over it, but hey, look,
but let's just enjoy what we've got ahead of us for the rest of the year as well, because we've got a good year. I think it was a bold statement for the championship. It was great to see. I know everyone's like, the racing was rubbish compared to Assen. Well, I think benchmarking anything with Assen, if you can't not have a bad race at Assen, and if you do, you've got something. There is something wrong. And then, it's motorbike racing. Let's just enjoy the goddamn thing, So what was cool about Navarra as well, and this is something I noticed, there wasn't one single pothole from the minute I left the airport. And I drove a long way. From Bilbao to not one single pothole. It was like smooth. It was like the racetrack.
Unlike the A49
driving
from here, which is like a rally stage.
That's a Scotsman coming at me looking for potholes. 100%. You'd have loved it. It was so good.
No, but what's good to hear is that these options are there. It's like, from the public's perspective, like most of our listeners, it's a bit like, right, we're doing Navarra. And immediately, as a racer as well as a sports fan, you think, well, how people are going to afford that? So it's actually refreshing to hear that the options are on the table.
It's like anything. There are definitely, and I think we've got a pretty clever bunch of teams of riders, and we've got an equally very clever fan base. Yeah. And there's a lot of people here that are at Navarra. I mean, I must have bumped into about 50 people over the last couple of days. There was a couple I bumped into on my way here that only just got back. They combined it with a little touring holiday on their bike, and they've been all going down the Pyrenees and round there. I mean, fair play to them.
But stepping into that side of like going into the Worlds in the Spain, did you have many wildcard entries as far as the local Spaniards are concerned? I was always curious, and we've got Duncan here thinking on overdrive.
We spoke to a couple, and I was kind of keen not to. This was our show. I mean, there's obviously there were a couple of Supersports could have gone in there, but I just thought this is our show to start with, and
our own wild cards were good. That we brought along from the British Championship.
No, exactly. I mean, David Todd on the Supersport was fantastic, and but that may be another event concept next year, that maybe we have a local class there. I mean, I was talking to Anna Espita from Dorna. They've got obviously there's the junior or junior GP. And I said, hey, well, why don't we do BSB and maybe junior GP? I mean, it just completely as a kind of why not? Could we European Talent Cup? Something like that. The Spanish Superbike Championship. I know the guys that run that series very well. They've got they follow us religiously on technical rules. The new Supersport Next Gen. They follow us probably closer than they do the World Supersport Championships. There are some slight nuances. They're very keen to take the sport bike concept for 2025. So that and that again as BSB, operating with eyes wide open with all the other national championships in the world. We're bold in what we do, and people like the fact that we have a very adaptive mindset for classes, regulations. We're not just we're not suppressed by bureaucracy and politics. We can, if we think an idea is good, we talk to our main participants, which are largely the teams and manufacturers, and say, right, we're going to do this. And when we do it and we prove the concept, other people look at us. I get a call from Wayne Rainey in the US. Hey, we saw this new class you're doing. I really like it. What's the basis for it? Blah blah blah. Similarly, the Australian Championship, Italian Championship. So people should be thankful that BSB is this thing that is pushing the boundaries internationally, and that's a good place to be.
How proud does that make you feel for you and the organisation that you're technically leaders in the technical development of it right now?
I think it makes me feel a bit vulnerable. I mean, I get some funny looks from people in authority that could probably screw me, but but I think, we've never stopped being the first at doing things. We go back, certainly the BSB era, the first people to do 1,000cc. Mm-hmm. That was us. The first people to do the big technical rule changes. The first series to run on a spec ECU at that level. Pathway class is a new thing that we're doing. The classes that we've just spoken about, we're just not afraid to make bold decisions. And some of our advances, our from an operational side, we're the only sprint race series that has a safety car in motorbike racing. That we've been doing since 1998 or 1999. And we're talking like the best part of nearly 30 years doing that type of procedure that really makes BSB stand out organisationally, and it blows a lot of other organisers' minds. Like, how do you do that? Yeah. It's like, well, it's pretty easy actually. I'm tremendously proud of our medical team that are just simply the best in the world. And their commitment and the fact, a big point about Navarra. I mean, certainly when the World Championships, Superbike and MotoGP, and even Formula One go from country to country, they take a layer of officials, the permanent staff. But when we went to Navarra, we had the best part of 55 race safe marshals and 15 of our medical team. So my bottom line when the decision was made in turning to go was, I said, of course, I'd never compromise safety anyway, but I said I have to have my access to my key tools to put this over to the outside world in terms of the competitors. They see no difference. The standard has to be maintained, and the only way to do that is to get the people. I mean, the Navarra marshals were great and cooperative, and the camaraderie was amazing. We had about 140 marshals in total, but nearly 40% of them were our English marshals, or British marshals. I say British, not English, British, and the medical team who can't legally practice outside of their jurisdiction, but they can act as observers and as support staff to the local medical team, and it worked fantastically, and that just again shows that we do not cut corners on safety. And I think that surprised quite a few people. Like I said, we did a group shot of our marshal and medical team out there, and I instantly got some people calling me from the hierarchy of, let's say, some international championships, going, you took all those people? Like, yeah. How do you do that? I mean, we just do. That's the way we are. We are. So it's like, I mean, that again just shows that BSB is like this this force, this platform that can go, right, where are we going? Well, we're going there, okay? We lift it up and we take it down. We don't distinguish Navarra from Cabot to Thruxton to Brands Hatch.
And you noticed that when you were there as well. You recognised everybody. You know, the marshals, the setup crew, the medics.
Yeah.
It was
that reassurance is incredible. So all our procedures were exactly the same as they'd be for a domestic race.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to listen to you guys because you had a safety car test.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to listen to that live on the radio and hear these guys. It's incredible how it works about in that race direction. You should try it sometime to try and get near it.
Yeah, you should do that. Yeah,
it's so cool.
Yeah,
I'll just duct tape my hands together so I don't push a single button.
And that's probably your mouth as well, but it's just
we actually, again, so that all the local marshals could see what a safety car situation was. We actually did a safety car simulation involving Steve Plater was on Davey Todd's bike, and we had the 2 tag super stock bikes that had been tested there. So 3 bikes going at pace. Then when they passed a particular section, a marshal would go into the gravel to act as a rider that had just crashed, and we did a proper rehearsal of the marshals coming over the wall, the communication protocol, removing the rider under medical direction, deploying the safety car to catch it, so that everyone could see it and what the commands would be, both in English and Spanish. And that level of detail is what we're about.
And you blow me mind the fact that you can just pick up essentially a country and put it in another one. That's what you're trying to say.
Exactly. No, exactly. And that we did it with Assen. And that, it's not without some political fallout, but it shows the strength of BSB that we're able to do that.
And the fact that the wheels are always turning, it's another question I must ask is, how long does it take for a technical regulation to pass? So it's the Sport Bike Championship.
Yeah.
It's the fact that the news, from the outside looking in, obviously I'm not part of the feature on that, and it's like, we're replacing stock 600 with Sport Bike, and from the outside world, that was overnight. So how long does a process take?
I mean, we decided very early in 2023 that with manufacturer consultation that this class was needed. Obviously, super twins had existed somewhere. We were under NDA from a couple of manufacturers knowing what product was coming down the line, and I think that was one of our big keys, because obviously the Triumph 660 is no one knew that bike was coming till about, I think, the third quarter of 2023, and we were under NDA. We went and saw it, and for me that was the moment when knowing that we had that range of bikes, so Aprilia, Kawasaki, the Triumph, and we know that there's other product and other manufacturers coming online. So that was the key to it. But then this whole new era of technical rules with bikes that are twins, triples, are all mixed bag, different capacities. I mean, if you've ever been involved in car racing, Duncan have some sympathy with this from WEC. Balance of performance is a very well used phrase in particularly GT and endurance car racing, where you've got the similar thing. You've got different cars of different capacity and all different classes. You've got to try and make them all work together. Now, I mean, in the old days, you used to balance things by just lumping loads of lead on. Now, with a common ECU in particular, you can get down to a very technical detail with torque maps and other electronic interventions, throttle position and things like that. And so that's why we're on that. So we have a basic set of rules, which basically you can generally do most things to most bikes within reason. So that's in the sort of the set of kind of technical parameters. Then per bike, you create a bespoke performance characteristic for each bike. You have a reference bike. So say Super Sport as an example, the R6 is the reference bike, and then you almost artificially make everything else match the R6. That's a very, very oversimplistic way of looking at it. Yeah. And so the same in, say, sport bike, I'm going to say, again, this is just just for this discussion, not the actuality. Say the Yamaha R7 is the reference bike, you then make everything else replicate for its characteristics. So this is a brand new era of technical rules, and I think it's taken some getting used to, because we've all grown up with very simple technical rules. It's a super stock or a super sport. Is it a standard piston, or can you modify the piston? Is it that's just done. If you cheat, it's a piece of metal. You look at it, you measure it, it either complies or it doesn't. So now this is a bit more of the dark arts, and of course, because people know that it's being bespoke, created like a torque map. The moment someone gets beaten by somebody, it's unfair, you got to change it because we're stuck. But the idea is that, right, everyone holds it. There's a review process over every 3 races all the inputs to get the balance of performance. It's a huge mathematical algorithm that is looking at lap time, performance. But you've also got the outliers. Like you stick Richard Cooper on something, that's an outlier because you could put him on a flipping Lambretta and he'd probably do one in that.
But that's the thing, especially with like using that for example, like Richard Cooper, say with the F900.
Yeah.
It's a bit like you can imagine what the social media and what with the world saw. It's a bit like engrave the trophy now.
Yeah.
So that must have been a very difficult thing to.
I like Richard, and I think he's such an adaptive rider.
He can pedal anything, like you say.
I mean, if he jumped on a stocker this weekend, he'd probably be like front row. But he's just like kind of gonna be arsed.
Yeah.
So when it was a one-mate series like F900, it did take some of the competition out of it for sure. But at the end of the day, he's there to be beaten. And he's also the benchmark, and it's like it's dead simple. Just someone's got to beat him.
And it's more big racing. Things happen. You can fall off. Yeah. Like interestingly, at Navarra, we had a first ever non-Richard Cooper race win in a BMW. Nicky Coates took a main event. First person never to actually. Yeah. And you look at it this weekend, it's like there's about 7 or 8 guys all there. So it's looking good.
It is what it is. I mean, we have just years where people get into a class and are utterly dominant. But
next time you hear me talking about BOP. That's what it is. Balance of performance.
That's going to be a phrase that's going to drive everybody mad. But that's what it is. But what it does do is it means that for future classes, and because, say, the bike industry is changing so much, you can have these bikes from these quite different set of parameters in terms of architecture, be it twin cylinder, 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder, a 750 versus a 1000 or whatever. And this is going to be hugely relevant going forward because for sure the industry is changing. The 1000cc 4-cylinder thing, the manufacturers are just not selling those types of bikes anymore. And what they are selling are in very small volumes, and they're just purely for really retail or for recreation in terms of track days or racing. So manufacturers will keep going, I'm sure, for a little bit longer from a brand promotion perspective. But if you look at the global picture of racing, the brand promotion class is MotoGP, where millions and millions and millions are spent on the brand, and yet our side of racing, and I guess World Superbike, is more product promotion. It would be illogical to have just the brand promotion mindset for the production series, because that's why I have two of the same.
Yeah.
Now the other problem for motorbike racing compared to car racing, that you could go to Cheshire Oaks shopping centre up the road, stick a Formula 1 car in there and a touring car in there and go, right, which one's which? And you wouldn't have to, someone with no knowledge about sport whatsoever will go, oh, well, that's a racing car and that's like a road car. They know.
Yes.
I guarantee if you put Bagnaya's MotoGP bike next to Bautista's superbike in there and said one's a MotoGP bike and one's a superbike, they probably wouldn't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Superbike, if you knew nothing about motorbike racing, at least one of them's got the word bike in it. And so they might. But you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But then also from a performance point of view, that bike laps 2 seconds, 3 seconds faster than that bike, but the budget to run it is about 10 million quid difference. So that's where motorbike racing is in a bit of a pickle. And we've got to be quite careful how we navigate, because it's something racing will, or the industry will be determined by accountants. Yeah. And when the number is looked at, go, how much are we spending doing this? Well, we can afford to go around the world once, brand promotion, MotoGP, global audience. If World Superbike that isn't underpinned by sales, and the costs are getting a bit out of control in that, it is a little bit vulnerable. So I think that's where everything's going to be slightly repositioned, I think, going forward, in terms of we'll be racing things that are important to the manufacturers. That's just my feeling.
And is that a prediction of saying like thousands coming to 800? MotoGP did that for a fair few years ago, didn't it?
MotoGP, I think, is going to 850cc's in 2027.
Right.
So that'll be announced, I think, shortly. I mean, that's kind of the direction of travel.
Don't put this out yet, then.
No, that's why I think. I know that's kind of the direction of travel that everyone's talking about. So I would find it pretty strange that if MotoGP is running at 850cc, that a current World Superbike 1000cc essentially quite open, because the rules have changed again in World Superbike. You can have lighter cranks and things like that. It's kind of getting a bit, especially there's concessions, super concessions. The production series is creeping a little more to being more almost prototype. Which is a bit of an odd direction for it to be travelling in when the bikes aren't being sold, and if the other class is being suppressed, that one is going to have to be suppressed as well. So it's going to be some interesting moves coming up. And I think, again, from a BSB's point of view, I mean, I know our direction of travel and how we're going to handle it. Not going to say just yet, but we've got a plan and we're pretty comfortable with it. So
when can we find out the plan?
I know that's
once the cameras go off and the mic goes off.
So no, I mean we have a roadmap, and I'm very happy to be.
It's good to know, actually.
Yeah,
it's good to know.
That's the thing about getting you on the show, and first of all, thank you for coming on the show. It's the fact
but it's reassuring for the public because not everything lasts forever.
No.
And this is against the backdrop of the political system changing in terms of governments and what they think, and obviously the internal combustion engine and electric mobility and things like that. We have to think about a whole heap of things that we didn't have to think about probably that much even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm just blown.
I don't think EBSB is anywhere close.
Thank God for that. Thank God for that.
Whilst I think we do have to look at sustainable stuff and do things in a more intelligent way and a more sustainable way, that's just being a good citizen of the world, But yeah, there's no e-bike project just yet.
I need to ask you about your, coming into the BSB season, you jump on a plane, you go and do some FIM stuff. I think that's really cool. But what if you did get the chance to go to all the MotoGP rounds? What's your favourite circuit to visit outside of the BSB calendar?
I don't know really.
Because you've been a good few.
I've done. I mean, I did India for the first time last year. That was an experience. Mugello is always pretty special. I mean, the ones where there's good atmosphere. I mean, I like anything. Look, I'm a fan at the end of the day. I've grown up with this sport, and I like you like to get the emotion stirred. And when you're on the grid, you're fortunate to be there. You can feel the energy of 100,000 people at an event. Le Mans is a great round just because if you've ever seen the guy in actions, I think he does the 24-hour car commentary as well.
Yeah, Bruno.
He's fantastic.
He's crazy.
And he works the crowd. And when you've got, everyone's singing the Marseille, and you had a French riders on the front row. I mean, anything that's a big occasion. This is going back to the sport generally. Whether it be rugby, football, anything, the stadium sport, anything where you just get atmosphere and noise. As much as I know BSB, chop me in half, it says BSB. The Brands World Superbike rounds from 95 through to probably around about 202, probably. That little period for me is still the best events we ever ran.
Is that the foggy era with the wild cards and the Brits coming in as well?
The biggest ever was 99, and that was just. Brands is my home circuit and the place I literally grew up at. My earliest memories of being a human at Brands Hatch. So those events and the energy on those events was like nothing else. A British Grand Prix for bikes in the UK has never come close, I don't think, to a World Superbike at Brands. The Brands 99 race. The energy and the atmosphere was just off the scale.
How do we get World Superbikes, that event, back at Brands? Will that ever happen again? Could that ever happen again?
I don't never say never, and I think World Superbike have kind of worked out they need to not just go down blindsided down of just copy everything MotoGP does, and you've seen some other circuits that they've started to go to, which I think is the logical thing. But I think Brands they wouldn't be palatable to go to Brands. I think the DNA of that championship is nothing like what it was. It worked in that period, and I think it would be difficult to recreate. I think you talk to some riders, they probably would embrace it, but many others wouldn't. And then Brands would probably have to be changed. Although it annoys me because I think if you can race at Most for World Superbikes, you can race at Brands Hatch, frankly. But it's like sometimes when you've something stepped out of the system for so long, it's very difficult to go back. So never say never, but that was the.
That was a heyday, definitely.
Yeah, that was a heyday.
How do you feel when riders, like World Superbikes and MotoGP lads, say BSB tracks are dangerous? How do you tolerate that?
It's an easy throwaway remark, and you can talk about the physical side of tracks, but Paul Denning once says this to me, whether he can remember saying it. or not, I don't know. But when Paul first got into MotoGP, he was running the Suzuki team, and he just come out of BSB, and I think people were talking about the differences. And he said something that's always resonated with me. He said it's not just about the physical side of tracks. For sure, a BSB track like Alton Park is a different character to a track like, let's say Sepang. Okay? But I think mindset comes into it, and everything else. So if you've got the discipline of the riders, the discipline of the organisational structure, the professionalism of those two efforts combined, the safety services, the medical, and just the mindset, that as a combination is a very powerful tool that adds to safety. What you can see in some of these European races is, you can have some barriers a long way away, and I'd say even from a BSB perspective, there's a constant process of moving barriers back where we can. We have access to the best levels of safety protection, which is the same as what MotoGP uses. They're all classified by a certain standard. So you may have heard the term Recticel. Recticel is a type of product, and it is classified by the international governing body as a Type A protective device. And that's the same as an air fence would be. That just happens to be another brand, or Alpina. So, I mean, for instance, all the BSB Recticel material, we actually use that at Silverstone for MotoGP. So it's classified as the best stuff. So at Alton Park, we have something like the best part of 800 metres worth of soft barrier that we own deployed around this base, which keeps circuits like Alton Park, able to be used. But the important thing I say is mindset, is that what you see particularly with some of the junior classes is they'll race at somewhere like Sepang, and their mindset is they're in this believed to be incredibly sanitised, safe environment because they believe that there's no barriers anywhere near. But that's not where the risk lies. The risk lies in the close pack racing, doing manoeuvres that are frankly crazy, where you have contact, you crash, and you're unavoidably struck by somebody behind. That is, so it doesn't, the track, just because the barriers are a long way away, the danger actually manifests itself in a different way and in a much more deadlier way in many ways. And we've seen that at European racetracks and Asian and international standard racetracks. Because I firmly believe, the mindset is people just like, the track, there's acres of space, everyone just rides to they believe they can do no wrong, so they don't have any kind of respect for their surroundings. And that does come into the mix. So I think, when you go a little bit more deeper into the detail and analyse that, I think that acts as a bit of a leveller. So for sure, but also for the MotoGP circuits, in some of them, the speeds of MotoGP now are just insanely fast. We're talking about 240 miles an hour. Now that's the energy involved in a 200 mile an hour incident or accident. The floor is still very, very hard. And it's not about barriers. It's about, again, environment and the contact and the dissipation of energy can give you some odd outcomes. Yeah. So I think that does come into. I'm not trying to sort of pretend or say that we don't have. We have naturally challenging tracks that have some limitations. The fact that they are historic venues, and if you look at, say, like Alton Park Turn 1, the boundary of Turn 1 is where the barrier line is. Now, since we were last here in September, we've now got a new gravel bed in at Turn 1 because we've identified that the barrier contacts which have happened at Turn 1, they've been into air fence or Recticel, so Type A. They have minimised injury, but we want to, what other thing can we do there? Now to put even some gravel in there is actually worthwhile. Knock Hill used to have Johnny Ray had a bad crash, I think, at Turn 1, broke his leg back a day, and so the wall was moved back and no one gets anywhere near it now. So there's the whole circuit licensing. It's a very detailed thing. It's every event will be you're building data and experience. This circuit has just been resurfaced, so instantly racing lines have changed, probably even quite minutely. There's like slightly more camber, we think, on Cascades now. Yeah. Just very small nuances which change the dynamic of track, and that's how we respond to it. And if we detect a trend or we foresee something that will be a problem, just with just experience, then we react to it. So it's a very, very detailed thing.
can bikes become too quick for BSB circuits?
Yeah, like anything, it can't be open ended. I mean, what we're now in a period where we are doing steps to contain. There's some slight changes have happened this year in terms of we've taken away the softest tyre, so everyone is on the SC0. They don't get the X anymore. We've done a segregation of what we'd call just the latest generation superbikes, which would be the Honda, the Ducati and the BMW, as opposed to the Yamaha and the Kawasaki, which is slightly older tech. So those first three that we've just said, Honda, Ducati, BM, they're running standard cams now, just to take a little bit of edge, just because we were getting into the 240 plus brake horsepower range. So with the BM, that's been peeled back. But the BM's problem was it was too fast. You couldn't use the power, and it was just spinning up and no edge grip. So now with the standard cams, it's a much more linear power delivery, and you can see that the BM is suddenly back in the game at places where it would not always be the case. So they're quite subtle things, but for sure, what that statement you just said does lead into what I said a few moments ago about the roadmap, because we can't just have an open-ended escalation of performance.
So for example, if we're talking about the future and everything about lowering CCs, say it went from thousands to 800 to the market, and lowering the capacity of the bikes, would that ruin the romance of the superbike class? So say it went to 800s, would people go, it's not quite a superbike anymore, that we're racing thousands back then?
Ultimately, the premier class was 500 cc's, so
Then we went 750 superbike and we've gone there. So
going back over, I'm just talking in layman's, like as far as the public have seen.
It's like anything, I think good racing is good racing. If the presentation is strong, the noise is good, the spectacle is good, there's good grids. It's all pointless if there's only 10 people running around.
Yeah, 100% agree.
But these are delicate decisions to make. But as I think we've said, if you'd have said 10 years ago that the Supersport class was going to have 900cc bikes in it, you go, no, Supersport's 600. Well, no, it's 900. And so the models are changing. That's where a lot of this is going. So
the Supersport class this year is going to be, the champions, the different bikes, the factors that all come into it. 55 bikes here this weekend, a Group A and a Group B,
that's fantastic.
And it looks strong, and it's good to see that the pace is there. I'm delighted to see Honda back in the superbike class with Tommy Bridewell doing well, and also Supersport, and that Supersport bike's only going to get quicker the more Jack Kennedy gets on that bike, and 100%. It'll be interesting.
And I think again, British Supersport compared to World Supersport, where something's I think just changed a little bit in World Supersport in terms of the management of this balance of performance, because it seems like it's a bit of a Ducati kind of cup at the moment, and we were very sensitive to that. But the Triumph strong here, which is fantastic, and let's remember where the Triumph, the going back to the Craig Jones Triumph days, to have a group of that on, and something quite saucy in the Supersport class is coming for Donington, we hope. I'm not going to say it. You'll find it if you look for it on an Italian website, or maybe a German website, about something that's...
I'm not looking at a German website again. I got me in trouble with the wife last time.
But I think if it comes off, and we hope it will, then this is a big deal for British Supersport.
I never thought I would ever commentate on a GSX-R 750, to see those bikes out there, and they're not new bikes, they're old bikes, and they've still got it.
Exactly.
It's fabulous. Right, remember
just tell us. I'm sitting here, come on, just tell us. We'll edit it out, just tell us now, and we'll just go around it from there.
The colour orange, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh,
from
all together now. Oh my giddy hands. Right. But it definitely keeps you on your toes, and
we like the colour orange in here as well,
Oh, especially with Chris's colour.
I just caught my eye then. So,
brilliant. And I could see all these decision makers. That's going to lead me right on to my next one. Now I'm just picking your brain while you're sat in the studio. When an incident happens on track, crossing green lines and penalties on that side of things, how long have you actually got to make a decision?
Well, it's got to be instant. I mean, track limits are a big pain in the arse going. I mean, the British Talent Cup briefings. I mean, I'm surprised that hasn't been done for some sort of abuse in the sporting world.
Shouting at people,
because it is just get people out of the habit on day one, and it won't be a problem. Whereas you can just see across the European Championship sort of status that they don't. And this goes back to what I just said earlier. This whole lack of respect for tracks.
Yeah.
You know, because there are these things with all these kind of tarmac sort of runoffs and things like that. It just creates extremely bad habits, and the bad habits then sometimes manifest into bad manoeuvres, and the bad manoeuvres have bad outcomes. So you know, it all leads into stuff. I mean, track limits now it's quite, you know, we haven't, but it's, you know, it's a whole load of more cost, which really gets on my nerves. Now we have to have the fact we now have to have track limits cameras nearly everywhere, or the tracks. I mean, it's not. It's not. Well, I'd say not everywhere. I mean, when we get Donington has got some track limits places. Here's got a couple. Well, so not too bad, but it is just more expense on things that I don't really want to know. You shouldn't have to.
Shouldn't be doing.
No, it's just a pain, frankly. So
because it's a lot of it's a shit ton of responsibility to actually make a decision there at that point. Because, like you say, the whole sport is an entertainment business. It is an entertainment business, and so when you've got two riders going into a corner, contact, and one of them's getting punished. And you have to make a decision at that point.
I'm less bothered about those. I think they're actually quite easy sometimes. Because it is. I mean, look, everyone went flipping hysterical back here with the Valhalla and stuff at Druids.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I mean, of course.
It's dead simple. It's like it's about apportioning. It's the balance of responsibilities versus balance of performance, and it's basically okay. It's out, and it's you're not punishing necessarily the outcome. You're punishing the act, and we've got access to so much data now, and also you've got the benefit of your experience, and you got to call it how you see it, and as long as you're consistent, it ain't really a problem. But it's like if someone pulls a manoeuvre which is unfair or unsafe, and the person, you know, and you know, it's all on them, then the balance of responsibility will be high. If it starts to go down and the other person had a stake in it, you start to modify it, and it's just, if you just visualize it, you start off like this and you work out that if you get to sort of there, okay, it's a 50-50.
Yes.
That sometimes, you know, the nature of that close proximity racing has you know, consequences sometimes, and you just got to. I mean, I hate the phrase racing incident. That just is, for me, that's always just a cop out, because when you just can't think of a word to describe it. But you just be honest, either someone is wholly or partially responsible. If they're partially responsible, by definition, the other person's partially responsible. But then it's just degrees of how much. And you've just, I mean, we've actually got a bit of a formula now for in terms of person A, person B. If you work on a kind of a percentage base, if someone was, say, 75% to blame, 50%. So if it's someone is 100% to blame, the other person had absolutely nothing in it, they crashed, but the person who did it didn't, then it's dead simple. Then the balance of penalty just sits heavily on the person that caused it and had no outcome. You can't make the other person come back into the race, but you can't use that as it's unfair on him. So you can't. People have always started saying, "Oh, well, you should give them some of their championship points." They're never going to work like that.
No.
But if it gets to the point where, say, it's a 50-50 and both people crash, and you can logically work that out, that both people were basically equal for the outcome, and the outcome was the same as well. So it kind of it's just happened. It's just getting those little balances right. But if you work on a little bit of a formula and you just go, people involved, that person, balance of responsibility, that person over that person by a factor of that, or you know, then that just makes the penalty side. So it's just that, did condition 1 get met? Yes. And if that also involved condition 2, 3 and 4, then what did that entail? I mean, it sounds a bit nerdy. I mean, Chrissy would have loved it, because it literally it is mathematical. But once you just apply it like that, it's consistent. Mm-hmm. I mean, subjectivity is obviously still in there, but that's like all sport. There's always going to be, and because our sport is tribal, you do find that someone can do the most hideous move, but because that particular rider has a fan base that will just love them,
it's all right. Yeah,
it's all right. But it's like but you can't let that engage you.
And riders just want consistency. That's what the riders and teams want. That if you're giving them that's what they want.
Yeah.
But as far as like the decision, like you say, it's like from what the world see, they see this, and then a decision comes up on the telly. Yeah. It's like what I'd like. For me to hear is it just you making that decision, or is it like three, four people?
In the old days, it probably was, but I mean, there's just too much going on. So we have a body called Race Direction. That's the first judicial body. I mean, it's there's 4 of us. I mean, I have tried to get myself out of that because managing the race from a general point of view. You can't really be I don't really be looking at replays whilst the live race is going on. So I have Eddie Roberts sitting next to me, who was a fantastic rider in there. I mean, a long time ago, but frankly, he feels it, he gets it, he can talk to people, and it's like, Ed, what do you think? And he will just go, shit, it was a shit move, or is that whatever.
I know it's good to hear that there's a racer involved in this decision making.
I have 2 other guys, one guy called Jerry Bryce, who has worked on the world scene for many years. He set up the European Junior Cup a few years ago, and he had a track day business called Race Days, but he does a lot of World Superbike judicial stuff and other FAM stuff. And a guy called Giles Ollie, who used to race only at club level, but he's been a race organiser himself for many years. Very very calm, and we've got some fantastic tools now. I mean, it's like VAR in football in terms of the concept, not the delivery, but basically we have every single TV camera is constantly scrolling, and basically we just touch a screen and it'll pull up the image that we want, and we can put multiple overlays of an in shot, an out shot. We can overlay the TSL tracking page, so we know exactly where someone was positioned, and just with a little jog button you can just literally go pull backwards and forwards, and you can do this within a second. And we've actually then fed that into our TV system. So I mean, every now and again we can do it. The TV director will say, can we go live, and you can get our image going backwards and forwards. And I think this is again from BSB, from an entertainment platform, is if it's safe to do so in the race and it's not going to be to take away my eye off the race, I can get a cue from the commentator and say, right, in incident at turn 5, 60 on 45, we determined 60 was at fault, long lap penalty. Done. And that, I think, adds to the it's instant. Things like the long lap penalty, I think, are really good, because no one wants to be sitting in a steward's office. I mean, this track here, I mean, back in the year 2000, we were here till about midnight after the Hodgson Walker thing. And whereas if that was probably now, you could just do something like it's a long lap penalty or something like that, or grid penalty, done, and it would be forgotten about.
Yeah,
but it's good to know you've got all that at your disposal for you and the guys, and because a lot of people sitting at home won't know that, and they'll just think, oh, there's Stuart just making a decision off his own back.
No, I mean,
that's how people perceive it.
I'm sure we'll still argue about it now, but when I think it was Hickman on O'Halloran back here. I mean, with the data, you can tell with it was like brake pressure and corner speed. Like we said, well, okay, on every single lap, this happened. On the lap the incident happened, something was materially different, which just gives it in the same with Tommy Bridewell and the safety car restart back in September. From the data just showed an acceleration brake, which basically was, the rules clearly say you can't go, stop and go. You've got to maintain a regular pace, and you can't do an erratic manoeuvre. So
that was scary, that one. I remember that one.
I still remember, was it Steve Day, the commentator? It's a mess. It was.
Yeah, all over the place.
But speaking about Bridewell incident, it's a bit like when he rode by and he was sticking the fingers up at race control. It's a bit like these are the questions. It's a bit like it's a. Obviously, you can't be taking things like that personally, far from it, but it's a bit like, as far as making examples, and
it's like a big firework, it needs to burn out.
Yes.
You can deal with things in a certain way. And I think that particular weekend, with everything else that was going on with the PBM stuff, it didn't need a lot of hot heads flying around. I think that would have just inflamed the situation. But, unbelievably, we do talk to people. So, I waited till sort of Monday afternoon. I gave myself to sort of 5 o'clock, and then about sort of 5 o'clock I saw the phone ring. I said, right, let's have a chat.
Let's get this sorted straight off the way.
And then it just it starts to fizzle out. But there's a line, and if the reputation of the championship is brought into disrepute and things like that, you know, there are the consequences, because no one looks good in those situations.
No.
And similarly, I think when we then went on to Donington and all that sort of stuff, it was like, right, okay, get out your system right now, come in, and it's just like, just not putting up with this. And
Did you actually get them in?
I didn't get involved in that one.
Right,
So,
okay,
I mean, again, I just let the guys. It was very standard that my colleagues just dealt with it, and again, it was just calmly. There's no, you know, that's the thing. I mean, everyone would love the idea that it's this huge sort of like slagging match, and you can't get yourself into that situation. Once you've lost that control.
Yeah, calmness is a superpower. I've been told a few times.
And also time as well. It's like, we don't need to talk about this right now. Give it an hour.
Yeah.
I've finishing off that year, such a poignant year, like loss of Paul, and like going on to win the championship. That was tailor made. That championship last year, I mean, half a point. What's that about?
And it changed. I think it changed 9 times in the last race.
That was incredible. I mean, for me, the Hopper Hill year was incredible, but it's strange because the backstory to the Hopper Hill year, there'd been a really bad accident earlier in the day. John Crockford had crashed in a really weird free crash. He lost it on the start-finish straight, if you remember, and crashed basically where the pit exit is. Mm-hmm. And John was in quite a bad way, and we knew that the prognosis at the time was quite serious. So that was dominated. The rest of the day was almost like in slow motion. It was just it was happening, but you were connected, but it was just process. And I intuitively remember it was literally about 3 laps to go, and I wasn't not concentrating. I knew everything that was going on, and it was like, tell me what happens here then? And I just sort of laughed and I said, but basically it's Hopkins and Hill, and basically there's 1 point between them, so whoever is in front of the other will win the championship. I'm like, and I just, for that moment, I just, not in a disrespect, switched off of my concern for what was going on. John had been flown out, and at that point in my head was, well, he's in the hands of people who will do the best care for him, and I can't. I'll focus on this now, just to tell you what it meant. And of course, it was the incredible last lap, and then the rest was brilliant. But then everyone said, but most of the race was like that. Was it? And it is sometimes like that. I have to maybe watch it 3 or 4 times in the week after an event to actually truly understand what went on. I mean, when people say, if Jonathan Palmer's not been at an event and you're like, I'm driving home, how did that day go? Who won? I went, I have no idea. You know what? I generally have no idea who won. And that happens so many times. I'm the same.
I have to watch it when I get home because I'll speak with Angela or my mum or somebody, a friend on the way home. They'll ask, who won that race? And I'll be like, I can't tell you. I've got no idea. Yeah. It all happens. You're all caught up in home.
But I think with this one, I was much more in tune with, and because I think this whole thing had been building. And
you were expecting something.
The drama
of it. Because with the Hopper Hill year, it wasn't particularly between just those two building. I mean, it was kind of strong, but it didn't have that build up and that energy and the backstory of the rivalry and the backstory of obviously what had gone on with the team. I mean, it was just powerful, and it was a bit like the Hodgson Walker final year. You had to choose a side. Well, obviously we didn't choose a side, but like the public, and you were Team Tommy, you were Team Glenn, and both of them have got this incredible partisan fan base, and obviously with it, and then the team and everyone, you could just feel. They were showing their hand who they supported. They didn't want to give something. It was incredible. I mean, the fact. The media noise from it. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, it was the best of sport in many ways. And you only need 2 people. It was like the ultimate. Boxing is 2 people. Tennis is 2 people. I think sometimes it just comes down to those 2. I mean, in motorsport terms, it's like Senna and Prost or something like that. It was that level of angst, and none of it was artificial. I mean, they genuinely didn't like one another.
We've seen that a few times.
And then with Kyle in there, who could still do it. I mean, if Leon hadn't had the technical at Donington, I think he could have had more of a role to play in it. But let's say that last lap, it was everyone was throwing everything at it, and you're doing the calculation. It was like the pendulum going one way, the other. It was brilliant.
I was shaking in the commentary point. I remember that I was shaking for the whole race, and it was you get caught up in this whole thing.
Exactly.
What an end to the year.
And when I think from the emotional side of it, that was the biggest hit of probably missing Birdie, because like normally I'm sort of out by the team and you're in that moment and you're trying to he's gone. Shit.
Yeah.
That was that, and that hit me like a ton of bricks then. I burst into tears, obviously. But no, but then the end of it, that it was like, everything, the stress in the back of your head, your shoulders, everything, it totally consumed you. And but that in itself, that adrenaline, that's what I get from my side. And I think the day that stops is the day I walk out of this industry. Because,
You don't see that coming too soon, do you? You don't. No.
There are days. Nothing lasts forever. But
because you said this at the very start.
Yeah.
And I thought, hang on.
Yeah, no. It's just a bit of life in me yet.
Yeah, good.
But
do you get it? Like, because last year was so up there. No.
It's
like
not,
as far as
it's not. I mean, I definitely feel it. But I go into this. It is like an autopilot. It's like a serene. Can't describe it. It's like doing 1,000 things at once, but in slow motion. But everything's happening really quickly. I mean, people that have watched, have seen the inside the race control bit. I mean, they generally are blown away from it, and frankly, they should be.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Because it is like muscle memory, and when you've been doing it for so long, and I mean, the people in Navarra saw it for the first time, and they saw it, and then it was quite flashing. They'd seen other championships come in there. They said, "We've never seen anything like this." And, I get nice compliments from the World Championship people. We are highly regarded worldwide, and to put it in context is that our race controllers, me and Claire is my deputy, who's worked with me for the last 15 years. But come the race day, I drop every bit of the rest of the sort of the commercial distractions, and for me, that's the money, the money shot, or whatever you call it. It's like, and I'm at my happiest. All the bullshit, all the politics, and some of the sort of like the wrangling and the sort of thinking about this, that bit between say 1 and 6 race day, Saturday and Sunday, is me at my happiest. Just with the field of play. Whatever's kind of thrown at you, you're ready for it, and it is like quite a spiritual level as well. I mean, it sounds insane. I've not really spoken about this much, but you actually get onto this kind of plane. I don't know if you've studied like Senna, when Senna describes himself in this kind of, and you kind of feel that. And then when some difficult stuff happens, you feel like you're kind of connecting to this incredible energy, and that you can influence it with like the power of positive thinking and things like that. I mean, it sounds a bit wacky, but that is the level that we're at. And when you've got also everyone on the same wavelength, because we have this incredible continuity, it is the same people year after year after year within my event team. There's an intuition.
Yeah.
So no one is, they're not surprised at the next thing. There's an anticipation. They know what's going to happen next. Like as they come round to the start of the warm-up lap, there is a set of phraseology that has been used for the last 30 years, and it never changes. And the day it does, I think, will be quite difficult for people. But I mean, the most recent change was quite weird when Annabelle stopped, the starter, because we had this kind of, it's kind of, then obviously the voices changed, and it took probably about 2 races to go, fuck, something's different.
Yeah.
Who's on my grid?
Yeah.
But that, it is such a special thing, but that is the difference. We just go into this level of concentration where, you can potentially have sort of like 5-6 things happening simultaneously, and you've got your brain. I mean, it's just an incredible thing about it's taking this input in, shuffling them around and firing out the decisions, and everyone has to react first time, because it can't be. What do you mean? What does he mean by that? It's that level of it's, I don't know, what would it be? Would it be like a conductor in an orchestra, or a TV director? I mean, there's very similar things to what Cov does, our TV director, when you're calling the shots and you're almost you're anticipating and you're reacting in equal time, and then you get some curveball like the flipping weather. So I mean that they're the most precious situations, when it's like that dreaded word when a marshal's in a dry race says drops of rain on their sector, and it's like, okay,
here we go.
And that is the most critical thing, because you've got to get that. You have that small window that you can manage, where dry tags, we don't do flag to flag races, where you can manage to a certain thing. We've now got these light panels, which are the best thing we've got. I mean, I've amongst everything else I've got now, the marshals can locally control them, but so can I. So I can basically turn a section of the track into a yellow zone, or a rain flag zone, or any other kind of zone at the click of it. And it is like the ultimate kind of war game or something like that, where you're
sounds
just...
like DJ on a set, you know what I mean?
But it is exhilarating. I mean, it is just I'm in that race, but I'm not absorbing the kind of who they are, because it's just they are the subject, and you're just every sort of thing. You know, an input if someone says there's a technical problem or puff of smoke or something like that. It's that for me is that golden moment that makes all the bullshit worth it.
The way you guys react, I mean, it's like Mission Control. You know, we've all watched the Apollo films. That's kind of what it's like in there. The way you guys react. Today, for instance, I watched Louis Vallely come through Dearly along, and it went bang right in front of me, and I saw it, and I thought, oh, there's fluid out that. I need a moment off, and I said, now fluid down there, probably race direction, or probably looking at, and it was red out straight away. I mean, you don't play about with that. You know, you'd have seen the exact same thing as I saw. And the light panels, you've raced on them. You've seen them. I've raced on them as well. They're such a great
they're the biggest game changer, probably in my career.
Yeah. You still wouldn't do without the marshals. You still need the marshals to back them up, but it's just an extra visual.
They've now got much more confidence in doing their job, knowing that there's something that is way more visible and just quicker, and you can it's being able to like extend a yellow zone, like if you have a crash at a particular corner but the marshals need more space and more time, you can simply make a longer section of the track under yellow, which is rather than relying on a flag that is a long way back, because the consequence of making tracks safe or moving barriers back is you're moving the signals back, whereas you can stick a light panel on an overhang or something like that, or on a bridge. It's fantastic,
and they're so bright, and you get everything on them as well. You get yellow, you get red, you get the
and the black
number,
and orange. So, I mean, that critical moment when someone as a mechanical, like they're smoking or something like that. I mean, before it'd be like the black flag with the orange disc plus a manual number board that's sort of a long way away. It's now an illuminated panel with a number on. It's like one click of a mouse button and a number, and there's 20 odd panels around the track illuminated. And the reaction time now, it's within 1 or 2 panels. So you're talking 800 yards of travel with a bike that has a potential mechanical defect, as opposed to half a lap, and that could be life saving.
How long? I mean, we brought these in. Sorry, Don. We brought these panels in. All the circuits now have them, which is great. But I mean, how long did it take you to get up to speed to use it? Because the way you use it is incredible.
I mean, we'd had them they drip fed into the circuit system before. I mean, and the manufacturers, fortunately, they came to us and said, "What do you need?"
Oh, no, okay.
And I said, "I want something that I don't want to be fiddling around trying to click. I want a map of the track." So I've clicked the mouse. I put the arrow on the section of the track I want to go under yellow.
And that's it.
Highlight the section of circuit and push a button.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
So you're not having to open a drop down menu and scroll down and select the corner.
And also touchscreen as well. So if you're doing something else, you just go bam bam.
Oh, so it's mouse or touchscreen. Brilliant. Yeah. So it's quite a neat. I'm not going to say an easy thing to pick up. I'm not going to do it, Don. But
you should pop in, Tom.
I would love to. I'd love to. What's the next stage from here? So you're talking about advancement in safety. Will we ever see Dash? Yeah, well, we're working on that currently. That is part of this project. So we've proven the signal to from the flag panel system to the dash, to the ECU, but we haven't presented it to the dash in a live test yet. A lot of it's to do with GPS, and with GPS, unfortunately, there is a small margin of error is the wrong word, but it's not quite perfect yet. Until it's perfect, it can't be done. But another way is actually putting loop. At the moment, there's timing loops around most of the circuits, like maybe 3 or 4 sectors. A way to make it better is that we would increase the timing loops to be the same as all the panels. So everywhere there's a panel, there's a timing loop. Yeah. So actually, when the bike physically crosses, it knows it's crossed this sector. The transponder knows it's going to cross that line. If that sector is yellow, it will send a message to the transponder as it passes and fire the signal into the dash that way. F1's got it. It's easier to do in cars, but at the moment because some of the kit is a bit too bulky for bikes. So it's work in progress. But that's the next step for sure. Is that we will have something that's on the dash, like a physical, like a red flag, yellows, even like black flag situations.
It'll just pop on the dash.
Mapping too. Multi-21, isn't it?
Could you ever see communication coming into racing?
No, I can't.
Do you think that's a bad idea?
Yeah, I can't think of anything worse than that. I mean,
you know what it's like when you're on your bike.
I'd be up for it as long as I could talk back.
Oh God,
get piss off.
I know. turn them down.
Turn them down 100%.
Bully them off.
I'm like, oh no, it's like I've got a million questions and they're all piling in all at once. But it's like the safety element. But like looking forward to this weekend, what's your biggest challenge ahead, or is it quite like you say, it's smooth sailing?
It was, but I think it's improved a little bit now. So.
Because it's bleeding cold here. You've gone from sunny Navarra. Straight
I mean, Alton Park. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it can give you some challenges because of the nature of the circuit.
Yeah.
But no, I'm hugely looking forward to this weekend. I mean, this is this is BSB at its best.
It's round one again.
I mean, it is. I mean, that's been the weirdest emotion. It feels like having two first rounds.
Yeah.
So there's an energy here that I haven't felt before, and there seems to be so many people here today as well.
Oh, it's busy.
For a Saturday,
very busy. It's good to see, and it's nice to because we walk around the paddock. We're round one in Navarra, but you're seeing everybody else, and everybody's like, oh, we watched this, we did that. It's just really cool. It's nice. It's nice to be back and see everybody in one place, and the weather will be what it is. We can't change that, but we know we're going to get good racing no matter what.
Sorry, I'm not being rude. I'm just looking through our Patreon questions on this side of things, and the mad that we've actually raked through a lot of them. A lot of compliments towards Navarra. A lot of people from our Patreon group have been over and spectated, which is fantastic to see. And you can imagine us being at Geordie show. Everyone's just screaming, "Bring back Croft!" Because I think everyone's sick of the journey down. But on a personal note, I'd be over the moon if you could just go stir the hornet's nest.
I do like Croft, and never say never, but it doesn't appear to be right for the parties involved at the moment, so
which is understandable. I'm just basically, I think we're just going through it all. It's great to have Duncan on the show. There you are, so you're even getting the compliments here. It's from a fair few people. So, but as far as the questions are concerned, I've got to thank like Jason, Jess sniffing skid marks, Richard Harris, Maria. We've got Alex, Stephen Moore, Ty. Alex is banging the questions in. Paul Bennett. That's a good question. There's no question. It's just Croft. I think you're going to go home tonight with that screaming in the back of your mind, hopefully, anyway. But
Lara Croft is that?
Lara Croft, yeah.
Oh, yeah. 100% over. 100% over. But no, I think we've just gone straight through there. It's a case of just all in regards to safety, which we've covered throughout the show. But it's been absolutely brilliant. But have you got any more questions, Duncan?
I've got loads, but I want to keep my job, so it's probably best.
You shite bag.
No, it's been good. When Dom phoned me on the way down the road and said, I need a bit of help, I said, yeah, cool, what is it? Can you be my co-host? I was like, I'd love to, nothing more. I think that's great fun. And then he told me the guest, and I'd already said yes.
On that note, I must say, get well soon to Joe Atroy.
Yeah,
obviously we have
of course.
They had, when the family wanted to continue the show for Chrissy's name, it was a case of no one could replace Chrissy, and the only way we could do it was by trying to get three people to fit into one, and they're doing shite at it, let's face it. No, I'm joking, they're doing a great job. But I think that this is a perfect time to say thank you so much for coming on the show. Busy year ahead for everyone here at like BSB on that side of it, especially. Hold on, one more question. Is he living up to Fred Clark, in your opinion?
I've been an admirer of Duncan's work for many years, and look, it was Fred was Fred. His passion and knowledge of the sport is an incredibly tough act to follow, but like everything in life, things come to an end. It was Fred's decision to stop, and then we had the unenviable task of looking for a replacement. Duncan can be very proud to know that there was only ever one choice in my eyes, and that was him. And I'm really happy, and long may it continue, mate.
Thank you.
Oh, there you are. You've kept your job for at least this season, son, so outstanding job.
Do you guys fancy a beer on that note?
Absolutely brilliant. No, just double checking on that side of things, but I know I'm going to regret this by not getting enough questions in. It's amazing what happens when you sit down, it just goes flooding out. But
it's nice to just articulate sometimes. I mean, the more we talk and explain the personal side of the things of the championship and what it means to people, I think that's really important to get across, because it's one of our biggest strengths, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
No, it's just like I totally replicate everything that you're saying there. It's people just see a decision, rather than, well, actually there's a lot of work that goes behind that decision, so I know that's absolutely great to see. But I've got one recommendation, and you can leave after this. One recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
I know, brace yourself. I don't know how it would do, I don't know how much it would cost, but could we ever get a night race in a British circuit? Imagine night of the race would be a one-off in the dark, Qatar-like Premier
You'd
class.
have to have lights at the side of the track.
Oh, mate, no, wouldn't it? No, but that's what I mean. The logistic element, like obviously floodlit. Imagine that. a BSB at the races, everyone having a few beers, but you could have it on the tyre one.
Duncan will like this. I mean, Gillian and I spoke earlier this year about having not necessarily a night race, but an evening race, like maybe like 8 o'clock, but the Mercury around. Because of the football, it screwed it up with the TV schedules, but because it's like daylight till about 1 in the morning.
24 hours daily.
I think one of the World Superbike races is going to be an evening, maybe Portimao. I think it's like a 6 o'clock race or something like that.
I believe so, yeah.
But yeah, look, never say never. I mean, there's a huge cost involved with it. I don't think probably dark, but certainly a dusk.
Because you've got to watch for that dew point, haven't you? Because when it starts to turn,
that bollocks to that. It's exciting, but imagine it. Because I'm on a different mental scale. But imagine it. The people that can't make
Cadwell in the dark.
Half the circuit lit, half the circuit not.
No, but imagine it. People who couldn't get there during the day because they had the kids or whatever. Then good, like right, go get a ticket, the nighttime ticket. Imagine
from that. What we said about the evening race, I think that is something we have to be hugely certainly sensitive to people's changing leisure habits and work habits and everything like that. And we're competing against a lot of things, and live sport is a big thing. You can see what's happening with Formula One and MotoGP in terms of the people now marketing those sports. They are the high-end marketeers, and they will be looking to compete on equal terms with other sports. So I think we have to always keep an open mind for sure.
Nighttime, that'd be.
Can I just say one last thing?
I will end a wild card. I'll say it, but mate, I'm not.
In what?
anything. I want to be here. I'm desperate, and like me doing the F900s last year, and obviously thank you so much.
Why are you not doing this year?
Yeah, that's a good point. I asked you that.
There's not enough trees for me to cut, so that's the thing. Honestly, I love the experience. I love the paddock. I think it's absolutely. It's
you even joined me in the commentary box at Thruxton, air traffic control.
Mate, that was sketchy. That when you're like, don't swear. Well, British. It's simply down to money for me. And that's, I tell you what, I know we're kind of wrapping things up, but how hard is it to invite new teams into the paddock? I'm talking like, obviously for me it's financial, like a lot of who doesn't want to be at the Premier class, but as far as getting people to spend the money at Superbike, like Alan, am I right in saying like kind of Alan Garner was the last big involvement? Is that a fair comment to say?
I don't know. I mean, everyone racing is. I mean, cars and bikes. It always relies on someone who's generally a fan of the sport, successful in business, is able to combine the two in some ways, and. Is that an earthquake?
I think someone's taking me van actually out the front there, but don't worry about that. No, but but like you say, you need people on the grid, and you need people spending the finances that are needed. It's so important to bring in sponsorship, and that must be a challenge because, to be blunt, from the outside looking in, I don't know your communications between each teams, but one day they could just bring it up and go, I want to get in the jet skiing. You know what I mean? They could do anything. You know what I mean? Or ostrich race or whatever they want to do. You know what I mean?
And that's been the case for probably 30 or 40 years. I mean, it was never lost on me that Paul Bird's business was poultry farming.
Yeah.
If you went back 35 years, there was a lovely man called Harold Coppock who was a chicken farmer. He sponsored loads of riders as well. So it's always been, certainly cars and bikes, there's generally a central figure that has the passion to put a team together, and that is the reality of it.
It's important to keep them dragging in.
It's passion, isn't it? The people are here because they want to be here as well and enjoy being here.
Yeah. But it's important to keep the environment going, isn't it? Because sometimes motorbike racing, and I think that'll be the biggest challenge for any, especially your as MSV, is BSB and everything. It's the attitude of bikes, and that's the market, as you put it down to people buying it.
I think that's why we also, again, one of the other, it can't just be a motorbike racing thing for motorbike people. It has to have broad appeal.
Yeah.
And that's the other part of what the event delivery has to be able to appeal to. It's the fan, the consumer has got some disposable with their family to come and do something. Do they go on a long weekend somewhere? Do they go to the cinema? Do they go to Centre Parks? Do they go to a football match? Do they go to a rugby match? Do they go just anything? And we've got to be up there saying, no, we offer this incredible experience. And one of the big changes that came out of, say, the credit crunch in 2008 or 9 was a lot of people suddenly discovered BSB as a weekend experience. I mean, that's why, you know, these events now, the camping stuff is sold out weeks in advance. Is people are choosing this kind of. The model has changed very much from just being a one-day crowd coming on either the Saturday or the Sunday to we're coming for the weekend. I mean, this is one of the jewel of the crown of the season. These bank holiday ones. I mean, here in Cadwell for sure. You know, it's a great weekend experience, and it's big clumps of people reuniting after not seeing their mates since, say, maybe Cadwell last year or one of the summer rounds, and that for me again is showing how this is moving on, and it's the families, kids have growing up together, and then I've seen some kids in the paddock that I remember seeing them when they were sort of on their push bikes, and they're now sort of young adults, and it's like, God, you've all stayed, and they've all become mates, just through this, and I think that again, it just solidifies the
get the kids involved and you know that brings along the parents as well. But you know, for the whole camping thing, it's the same for Knockhill. You know, people arrive on the Thursday, park up on the Thursday, and they don't leave till the Monday. They make a festival out of it, and that's what it is. And the whole thing,
I think the events have to evolve a bit more as well. So it is not just around the round stuff. It is the social side, music elements, food, good quality food as well, and you know, just making them destination events, because these pop-up music festivals and things like in particular, they're everywhere because people have worked on that. People like to do this at weekends. People are working flipping harder than ever for perhaps little or less reward, and they just want to have a good time. And we've got to give them that. We've got to be up there in their decision making choice.
Can I say one last thing?
You crack on, son.
Sorry for being late.
You shite bag. You look, you've got a compliment there.
Right, let's go.
Dinner time.
I'm hungry now.
But no, absolutely exciting season ahead. You know, we're going from this straight to Northwest and TT, then straight into the rest of the remainder of the championship. It's an exciting year for motorcycle racing, and it's get the gum shield in and bite some screens. It's fantastic, man. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, good luck with your experts as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. But no, it's a perfect opportunity to say yet again, thank you to the Port Barrier. It's been absolutely brilliant. And obviously all our patrons, OMG Racing, Bennetts, BSB, we wouldn't be here without them. And JCT Truck and Trailer Hire. And this individual episode sponsor is Jamie Lyons Racing, who stepped from 600s into stock 1,000 this year. So, and their sponsorability energy of like, go on, just get that in there. So it's sponsored by Jamie Lyons Racing on this side.
Thank you, Jay.
And they gave me a little Leo the Line. I've got Leo the Line, which my dog also absolutely loves.
Yeah, the dog will be happy as anything on that side of things. But yet again, thank you to everyone for listening. And I know I've said this a million times, but thank you very much, lads. It's been absolutely great crack.
Fun.
Catch you next time. See you in a bit.
Cheers.